I'm Gabriel Ritchie,
I'm Jeremiah McConan.
and welcome to 100, count 'em, 100.
Number 100.
It
No
is,
player jerseys.
we are done doing the player jerseys.
Yeah.
It is the Richie and Meko 100. Thank you for joining us. I bet you're surprised to see us pop. If you're somebody who every day goes into the podcast, your Apple podcast or your Spotify podcast, and you refresh the queue, see who's new, you might be surprised to see us because Jay, we haven't recorded since October.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely our longest hiatus that wasn't
Planned.
like the ending of the season.
Right.
We just was like, we're good. No, but it's good to be back, man. And it's perfect that like it being 100 and us being back, the timing of us coming back with everything that's going on.
Had to.
I think it's perfect.
Had to. NFL
Yeah.
playoffs right around the corner. Uh, and yeah, I think it's first of all, props to you. I'll give myself props, but props to you for sticking around for 100 episodes. That we must not only like the stuff we're talking about, but like each other.
Just ended at 99.
It looked like that probably for a second. Um, but yeah, it's good to be back. I'm gonna pull
Yeah.
up a conversation we were having earlier talking about our favorite episodes thus far. Of course, as I said, we're gonna get into the NFL playoffs. We're gonna talk about the national championship game last night, and talk a little Pats, because that's not
Or the
not not such a
Pats.
happy time right now. But
Mm-mm.
Jay, we had this discussion a while ago, so it was on our minds, and I thought for the 100th episode we can bring it back and sort of have it on air. And that's what have your favorite episodes been?
Yeah. See, hold on. Let me like look at the message. I already forgot.
Yeah, we have this
Oh,
written
wow.
down. We had this written down a while ago, and we had to go searching for it.
This is awkward because I don't have the message.
That's okay. Oh, I didn't send it to you. I'm
But you know
retarded.
what?
I'm gonna
But you
fucking
know
edit
what?
some of this stuff out. Yeah, I didn't send. Here we go.
Excellent. That's all I see.
I just sent Jay a nude.
Um, and how like was it really my favorite episode if I can't remember it? Now I just look like the biggest fraud. Um, But yeah, no, we did it. We made a top five. It's like an actual list. That's why, because there's like they're all most of the episodes we did were like great, and if they weren't, it was like it wasn't horrible. It's just kind of like okay, it's
Yeah,
just another
there's a lot of
episode. But
factors. There's technical
yeah,
issues. There's, I think one of the major
right.
factors is the topic. Sometimes the topic just
Mm,
doesn't, it's not there that week. Um, there's times
yeah.
where there's nothing going on, and then we are able to make our own topics, do those evergreen episodes, our top 10s, our top 15s. Those are always really
Mm,
good. But those that when we run into episodes where we have to talk about whatever game happened that week or a certain scandal or something, and then 5 minutes in you can just tell we just really don't care about that. But those episodes are few and far between. I think majority of our episodes are really good, and we've had some great memorable ones that we would even have to write down, but just for the sake of
mm.
having an orderly list.
All right. So the first two, because we're just doing this like regardless of if there was a guest or not, right?
So
Just our favorite. Because I
it
don't think,
doesn't even have to be too formal. Here, I can help us out. I
yeah,
wrote
help me
down
out
like a
here.
preliminary list that isn't like a top five or
The long
anything,
list.
but I went down all of our episodes and
Mhm.
I picked out the 8 or 10 episodes that really stuck out the most, and I can give them to you if
Yeah,
you want.
you had a good one. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to hear them? All right.
Mhm.
Episode 24. It was a Western these are all going to be random because the main thing that makes these episodes great is the guest. And this isn't and not that
Yeah.
we love all these guests we're about to name, but this isn't if you aren't mentioned, this isn't a list of our best friends. And if you're not mentioned, this doesn't mean we hate you if you're listening now. This just means these episodes in particular stood out above all else.
Yeah.
So yeah, here we go. Episode 24, it was a Western Conference preview with T, and it was the first appearance of
First
T.
one.
I had no idea
Yeah.
what I was getting into. Sometimes I bring guests you've never met. Sometimes you bring guests I've never met, and we don't know what we're gonna get. And he was
Mm,
one of the most pleasant, maybe the most pleasant surprise of the pod, through this entire podcast journey for me.
love to hear that.
Episode 27, Aaron Rodgers. It was it's called Aaron Rodgers Soap Opera, Sad
I was just reading
Celtics,
that name.
and the best NHL players with Dave, my cousin. That was my cousin Dave's first
Mhm.
appearance. And that was
Yeah.
really cool because I know Dave's loves hockey and I've talked about hockey with him before, but it was the first time I really got to like hear him talk about the league in whole and not just like the
Hear his
Bruins.
thoughts and everything.
Yeah.
I like that. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you.
Episode 29 was what makes One Piece great. I remember recording that the night before Thanksgiving like 2 or 3 years ago, and that was great. That was
Wow.
the first time Tyler came on, and that what makes that episode so great is like that ends up turning into, they call it in manga a one shot when it's just supposed to be one off episode. That turns into its own podcast, the one pod that we have on Connection Media. So that was really cool. Episode
Was that the one
31,
with V and
yes.
or was it just Tyler? It was with the
V and
four of
Yusuf.
y'all, right? Yusuf, yeah.
Another very pleasant surprise where V is like, "Can I bring my friend?" And this dude Yusuf comes on. He's literally a One Piece historian. He knows more than the rest of us combined, I would
Wow.
say, and we are all
Damn.
obsessed with it.
And you're yeah.
Episode 31, Sonny's first appearance, vintage Belichick and Celtics, and that episode
Great
stands
one.
out because I was very down on the Celtics at that point, as were you, and Sonny's just Mr.
Yeah.
Positivity.
I remember
And
that. Yeah.
I remember being like, man, a lot of people, they're just green teamers and the Celtics can do no wrong. And if they lose, it's a ref's fault. And it's hard to argue with them or point out flaws from the team. Obviously, I'm a Celtics fan.
Mm,
I just like people to be realistic. He was
yeah.
like hitting us with facts on like, well, this, and what happens
I
that
remember
year?
he
The
was
Celtics
bringing numbers out and shit. I
Celtics made the
remember.
finals that year.
Yeah.
We had episode 4, the trade deadline special, and I can't quite remember. I didn't put down who was
Was that
on it.
with
I feel
AJ,
like
I
AJ
think?
might have been on that, but I didn't
Yeah. If
put
it
him
was
down.
last year, I think it was with AJ. That was a
Yeah.
good one. I remember.
Episode 44. All right, so I'm getting nonchalant with the way I named these when I wrote them down. Episode 44, Gene's first podcast. I mean, I remember us talking about Michael Vick and
Classic.
like that is one of the
Yeah.
best episodes. That's like one of those surefire top 5 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Light Years Ahead, I think that was season 4 finale, and that's with
Was
Jovan
that
and
with
Gashan.
yeah, right after the finals, the
Yeah, right
Celtics
after
when
the
the
Celtics
Warriors beat the
lost.
Celtics.
You know,
Yeah,
episode
that was a good
70,
one.
that is the AJ episode. That's our when we did the top 10 players for the first time.
The first
That
time,
was really
okay.
cool.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was a
really
good
cool.
one. I remember AJ being really high on SGA then, and I was like,
Yes.
really? And
Yeah.
now we
Yeah.
got a
And even then
possible MVP in SGA.
we were like, are we putting LeBron on our list or not? And it's still like
Yeah,
LeBron 2 years later at 39, still like hanging around. It's just
okay,
we're gonna be doing this
chilling it.
forever.
Yeah.
90, I'm almost done here. 90 was Junior. Junior comes on, Celtics heartbreak. This is after we got eliminated by Miami last
Oh,
year in
okay. I was trying to remember when it
therapy
was,
session.
but yeah, yeah.
And the reason I put Junior there, it's one of the great points that I bring up every episode. When
Yeah.
I'm or in everyday life is like when Junior said the Celtics need a veteran who has won a title before, who's gone over that hump. That is one of the most. That's one of the most. I've never been more jealous of a point made on the podcast.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, and this is what initially spurred this conversation months ago, episode 99 with Julius,
Mm,
where
yes.
like you don't know what you're gonna get for somebody on their first podcast experience, and he just knocks it out of the park.
The deep knowledge he had on like the history of the game, I think was what I was
Mm-hmm.
most surprised. Like that was the most surprising thing. And like he's just another chill guy to talk to. But like he knew so much about the history, that's like rare, I think, for our guests to really go deep into the history like that. Like I remember he was bringing up the Steve Nash MVP and like the case and why he won and like how they were playing, just like these different like you had to be there sort of, you
Hmm.
know,
Right.
scenario to even
He's
like
not just
know these
looking this shit
things.
up. Which, and there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that. People are born in
right.
certain I mean, I
It's
have to
just
look shit up to like find out about Larry Bird. But
all the time. Yeah.
nonetheless, yeah,
It was just a
it was like
pleasant surprise.
you've always loved this game is the
Yeah.
vibe we got from him. Um
Yeah.
so I just gave you a bunch of preliminary guys. Do you have like a top five guests or
So,
anything?
I
So we can make
mean,
people
two
feel
of
bad who are
them,
listening or make people
I
feel really
mean,
good.
two of them, yeah, right. Two of them you mentioned are for sure in my top five, the Sonny episode and then the one with T. And then the other three I had were the ones we like, hold on. Yeah, the other three that I had was just with us. I had the Bill Russell one.
That
I still
is
think that's our best
it's
one.
our most
Like,
it's our most perfect podcast.
yeah, yeah, that was just beautiful. And then the top 50 all time, that one was so good too. See, I'm more conceited.
Oh,
I'm only saying the shit with us. And then the Brady one, like I'm most proud of those podcasts, I
the
would
Brady
say.
one in we recorded ourselves making the list.
The, yes, the podcast within the podcast. That
Um,
was
yeah.
man, yo. That's how you know we're some real Brady sickos that we can go like 3 hours just doing Tom Brady's greatest games ever, right?
I think it's as great.
Or
Was it
moments.
great? I gotta look it up. Let's look it up. I think it
I
might
thought
have
it
been
was
moments.
performances, moments, yeah. And then we did like another 2 hours just talking about that field where we're sick. But yeah, those five are my favorite. And then I don't know if we had a guest for this one, but do you remember exposing Chat GPT, that podcast? That was
It
fun.
sounds really familiar. I remember where I was for that part. Oh,
We were
oh,
like
that's
throwing
when we.
given asking
That's how you know
ChatGPT
We're Brady
athletes.
sickos because we wouldn't
Yep.
stop asking
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT about the great 10 greatest
Top
athletes
10
ever
athletes.
until
Like
they listed
kept
him.
refreshing the answer. Yeah, we were sick. And they had like fucking Simone Biles and
They had like
that
10
Simone Biles
gymnasts.
didn't
It was
deserve that
all
string, but
gymnasts, and then
yeah.
Michael Jordan at
Yeah.
one. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. But
Let
yeah,
me
those are
see.
the ones that come to mind for me. So I'd say like those three that we did, and then the T and Sonny episode. AJ and Gene are always a fun time, of course. Uh Wave is a great time.
Pain
Yeah, and the Julius one for
2023.
sure.
Yeah. Let's see.
Was that like the what was that?
What was the worst
Pain
episode? Who's the worst guy? No, I'm just kidding.
20. But
Let's
yeah,
see.
those, I mean, 99 just all different fun experiences in their own way. And here we are, Gabe, 100.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had great fun on episodes that are 45 minutes. And then we've done episodes. I mean, the top 50 NBA
Remember
player
the
list.
45 minutes or less when we tried that for like a week in a
Yes. And it was
day?
like, fuck this.
Immediately couldn't do that.
Why
Yeah.
are we restricting ourselves? That's the whole point of a podcast.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like top 50 all time. Those two episodes
Yeah.
together, I think, are 5 hours, which is like a
Jesus.
day at school, just sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't record those in the same day, but I think we
I don't think
recorded them
so.
like one
No.
day after the next or something. It's pretty
That was
crazy.
during COVID, right?
That was during
It had
COVID.
to have been during COVID. Yeah.
That was like season
Because we
two, I
started
think.
making our lists during the lockdown. I remember we were just texting
Yep.
like, "What would be your top 50? What if
Origins.
we would send each other's
We
like
would send
names each
five a
day."
day. We would send five a
Yeah,
day.
yeah,
And
that was so
it
fun.
got harder and harder. We started at
Right?
one to
Uh-huh.
five, I think,
Yeah,
and then we would go. And people like to do lists going in reverse order, but for us, I think the interesting part was like who's getting left off the top 50 and who's
right.
sneaking in that
Yeah,
you might not even thought
yeah.
of.
Who makes your top 20 type
Right.
shit?
Because
Yeah.
it's the usual suspects.
Mhm.
And a theme of this pod, I mean, we could talk about themes too. Like a trending thing I would always say on this, we would say on this pod is like, it's Jordan, it's LeBron, and it's Kareem. It doesn't necessarily have to be in that order. But if
It
it's
has to be those
those
three.
three, if it's not those three, there's some
It's a little
bias
side
involved.
eye.
Yeah, it's some
Yeah.
bias involved.
Hmm. It's
That
like
the
Kobe. It's like, okay.
yeah, it's Kobe AI.
It's Kobe's usually the name, right? You hear
Yeah.
it's like, all right, dude.
It's Kobe, it's AI,
Mhm.
it's fucking
The
Shaq.
aesthetic guys. Yeah.
Right. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
100.
100. Here's to 100 more.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I mean, I'd love to be nostalgic this whole episode, but we should get to the agenda.
Mm.
There was a national championship game last night. This was the first year, Jay, that you and I were like pretty damn locked into college football, so much so that there were weekends where I was
Way more
definitely
than
more
ever been.
excited for Saturday than I was for Sunday because of
Yeah.
how kind of shitty the NFL
Agreed.
product has gone over the past few years. Something you pointed out on this podcast last year, I think. And I was like, I don't
Mm.
know. I think the problem might be that they're putting the Broncos and prime time all the time and shit. And it's like,
Which was part of the problem, but
yes, but you have been proven right. And, a
I
lot of the
mean,
flaws
yeah.
of the pro game might lead back to college. But yeah,
Hmm. Yeah. We could do a whole other podcast on that, but I'm with you. Saturday's been fun. And I'll admit I came for Colorado, but
yeah.
I stayed for the Pac-12. I stayed for Notre Dame. Stayed for Bama and Michigan. I stayed for Big Noon. You
Oh,
sort of realize once you actually force yourself to lock in that college football is truly a unique
yes.
experience. And I learned that this year. I think we both did.
Yeah. Yeah. There's different factors in it that matter. And I used to make fun of people who say it's the atmosphere. The atmosphere is
Yeah.
unbelievable. But I wouldn't say it's just the atmosphere. It's the interest. It's the interesting part of like wondering who's going to be good in the pros and who's not,
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
well as like every game matters.
Yeah. It's a
If
good
only
point,
four
game.
teams make the playoffs, well, that's what Rosillo says. That's why he doesn't
Yeah.
want a 12 team. Because if 12 teams are making it in, then a fucking 9-3 team can make it in. And that
Yeah.
makes that
The
makes
12 team.
the Saturday games not as fun every week in November and
So
December.
here's my thing on the 12 team. It does sort of lessen the stakes for some of the big games. I 100% agree. But I also think like I remember seeing on the schedule like towards the end of the season, like 14 Iowa was facing Louisville and they were like 16. Like that game all of a sudden really, really matters, if when it's the 12 team. I'm with you though. Like
No, I feel you.
the fact that Michigan and like if Michigan Ohio State played, the stakes probably aren't as high. And so I'm not sure. Do they have bye weeks with the 12 team? Like, does the first seed get a bye week? Or is it just
I don't know. I'm
I
not
don't know. But I
sure. I
heard
don't
if
think so.
yeah, yeah, see, and I think that could be a way to fix maybe like this sort of like the stakes that we're losing with some of these other games with the 12 team. Like if there's a bye week now, maybe those big teams are incentivized to like really lock in. I still think because it's a rivalry, those games will still be intense. Um, no, but I like the point you made though, like about just it being about like the fun part of watching college is like projecting who's going to be good or not. Because
Bro,
it's the best thing about sports in general. It's like trying to project this team win. Can my
yep.
team win the championship? Is this guy going to be good? And college
Right.
is like just a perfect sort of reflection of all those conversations that we like to have as sports fans.
I mean, here's back to my point about the whether why it should be less teams than 12 at least. Michigan,
Mm.
Ohio State, that was the fucking Super Bowl this year. And that was in like late November, I think, where Ohio State only lost by 3. They missed the playoffs and Michigan wins. And Michigan,
Yeah,
and it's same with Georgia and Bama in the SEC championship game, which obviously that means more, because you're already at the end. But
right.
still, all those, yeah, it was a blast. It was a
It was a
blast.
blast. Yeah.
It's a bummer that we're getting into it right now. Well, all these conferences are kind of like leaving and losing their identity because the Pac-12 was
Yeah.
such a vibe on a Saturday
Dude, I
night when you're not
wish
doing
I
anything on a
was,
Saturday night.
oh,
What a
yeah, man.
lifesaver!
Fucking midnight and there's a game that's like a fucking shootout
Caleb
because they're all
Williams
on the
has
West Coast.
300
Games are
yards
being played in.
passing.
Yeah, dude. The Pac-12. I'm with you. I'm so mad that I wasn't a fan like 5 years ago. Imagine all the moments we would have just experience as fans just because of the Pac-12. Forget everything else. Um, but I guess we should. What if we just talked college and we didn't acknowledge who won the title game last night?
It's
By the
fucking
way, like
boring.
Ohio State got a running back in the. I think this guy they're recruiting
Yeah.
kind of matters, and we just move on from there. Um,
This kid in this
it
Texas
was
school. Yeah.
yeah, Archie. I wonder how he's gonna do next year. Okay, okay. Let me hear your thoughts on the game last night,
All right.
because I'll start by saying I didn't watch it live because I had some
Yes.
obligations, so I was in a fucking dark cave on my Aaron Rodgers shit watching. It's an interesting experience in its own, but I want to hear your thoughts first because you were there.
Yeah, I was there and it was a bummer. It was a bummer, and not because I was pulling for one team or the other. I was totally pulling for Washington. But it's not as much as they lost, it's just the way the game went. And it
Yeah,
and kind of how the game was over in the first quarter. After Michigan goes up
dude,
2 touchdowns, their
it's
defense
over.
does the rest of the job. Even though Washington was creeping back at certain points, what
Mhm.
bumped me out is I don't want to call myself a JJ, the Michigan quarterback. I don't want to call myself a
McCarthy.
JJ McCarthy hater,
Yeah.
but I just like to see guys make plays. I want to see a guy make plays before we're starting to crown him this and that. And literally
Sure.
yesterday, I went to lunch during work, and I'm at this place, and and I'm in Boston, and there's some
You're in Ann
no,
Arbor?
there's like
No.
a 12-year-old kid wearing a JJ McCarthy jersey. I'm like, this
Wow.
guy throws for
That's
like 50 yards a game. He hasn't had to make a
yeah,
play all year, and he didn't.
that's odd.
He had a couple nice.
Yeah.
I'll give him. He had one or two nice throws in the title game. I'll give him that. But
Mhm.
I wanted to see what happens when you're down. And I know they were down against
Yeah.
Bama, but the one great play he made against Bama, his even that play, his pass was tipped. That catch
Mm.
that Wilson thing. He
Yeah.
made, I think, like baby. I called him Edelman. He reminded me of Edelman there, like the shorter white dude. But
Yeah.
um I thought the game was a bummer. It kind of showed me that I think in college football, big school, small school, not that Washington's like fucking Suffolk University, but big school, small school, I think the skill position guys and the quarterbacks can be just as good as whoever. You can have the best quarterback in the country could play for I was gonna make a Brady Six
Tulane
reference.
or something.
Hofstra.
I get what you're
Hofstra.
saying.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say the Flying
Yeah.
Dutchman of Hofstra
Oh.
University. The best quarterback in the
Yes.
country could play for a school like Hofstra. Um,
Yeah. That's so
but
true.
when it comes to, and that's cool when it comes to getting drafted and shit. But when it comes to trying to win a national championship, it's those big boys up front that is going
The
to
trenches,
decide.
man.
It's the guys in
Yeah.
the trenches that there's just a difference between the Big Ten and the SEC and everybody else.
Mhm.
Where and
Yeah.
that was the decider. People are shitting on Penix. He didn't have a good game. He had no time. Obviously, props to Michigan's defense. He had no time
Yeah.
because those guys up front.
I agree. I think he was rattled. Like he was missing some
Yes.
throws. I remember
Yes.
the big one, the 4th and 7 in the first half when they were driving, and even watching it, it was like, okay, they're going for 4th and 7. Like you can kind of feel the desperation. And then he missed that one. I remember to Rome, Adonze was just like streaking down the sideline. Would have been an easy touchdown, and Penix makes that throw in his sleep. Like
Yep.
in that Texas game, like, dude, he could have made that with his eyes closed. He missed another one with Rome like streaking across the middle, and he just threw it to the other guy. And even like in the fourth quarter, when, like you said, it was still kind of a game in the second half. And do you remember, right? It was the play that almost led to the pick six. And they showed the replay, and he had Rome wide open to the left, and
Yeah.
he decides to throw it into like a triple team coverage. And it gets picked off. The guy returns it to like the 5 yard line. Michigan ends up scoring. Yeah, I mean, the biggest storyline for me was Michigan's ability to just control the game in the trenches on both sides. Because, like,
Yep.
even on the offensive end, they were running all over Washington. I don't even know if the Edwards, the number 7, I'm not even sure if he played in the Alabama game, but he was just going
That's
crazy in the
what
first quarter.
Fowler was like.
Who
This
is he,
guy's come out
bro?
of
He was like
nowhere, basically.
Dude, him and Blake Corum. I mean, I remember seeing him in the
Yes.
Bama game. They both finished with over 100 yards. Um, and like with Washington, you can't have those missed opportunities
Yep.
when that's how the game starts. You just can't have that. And there was too much of that. But I think it was less about what Washington didn't do and more so about what Michigan did do.
Agreed.
I think
Agreed.
Michigan controlled that game and
Overpowered.
yeah, they overpowered them, man. They
What
completely overpowered them.
what I will say though is Washington's defense for a majority of the game did a great job up front, holding Michigan down, stopping the run, partly because they don't
Yes.
expect McCarthy to make a pass. But
Yes.
it was the tackling in the secondary that killed Washington, and that's why those two guys were able to just
Mm,
fucking take it to the big house once they were through the line of scrimmage.
for
Um,
sure, bro.
and also
Yeah.
for Washington, Dylan Johnson, who's been huge. He was huge last week, and he was
The running
huge
back.
versus Oregon in the championship game. He's been big for them all year.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, walking around with a busted foot, which is no fun.
Yeah. Right.
But
Yeah, it was tough, man.
it was a bummer that
What
it
was
was a
it?
bad game.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
with you.
we
Like,
can like be
yeah,
interested in this the fucking guys in the trenches, but the game had no flow.
it's just a fan. Yeah.
Yeah, it just
It's weird too because
we got
like the
blessed
game
last
didn't
week.
have flow. No, last week was just back-to-back movies. Both
Yeah.
games were insane. It was crazy. But it was weird because, like you said in the beginning when we started talking about the game, it was kind of still the game in the second half.
Yep.
Because, like you said, Washington started to slow down Michigan's run game. I don't know what they did, but they figured it out. They made some sort of adjustment. Because I remember they had a graphic, it was like 19 yards per carry, which is some Madden shit. And then like the first quarter, the second quarter
It's
goes
because
down
they
to like
fucking
five
took
yards a
two
carry.
straight to the house. Like immediately they took two straight to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
house.
right. Just completely inflated the numbers. And then the second half starts, and then immediately Michigan. Remember when the guy just bull rushes through Washington's O lineman and forces Penix to throw the interception on the first drive? And then even that happened. It's like, okay, Washington's still kind of in it. And then it sort of felt like who was going to make the big play first. And then Washington, it looked like they had one when
Got called back.
Penix, yeah, he finally hit Rome deep in it
73 was getting
for a holding.
killed.
Dude, murdered. And then Michigan makes their big play with the tight end Lovejoy, which is pretty interesting last name. But the big catch and run, he takes it down the field. And then, yeah, like Michigan, McCarthy, like he made throws when he needed to. I'll give him credit. Like he sort of like when you needed him to make that throw, he did it. He had that big run on third down, which I don't even think they ended up scoring on that drive in the second half. Remember, it was like 3rd and 8. They were backed up, and he just took off. Apparently, it was like the longest run of the season, and they didn't end up scoring, but it flipped the field and made it tougher for Washington. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sucks because Washington. That is not the
Bro,
Washington team we watched.
we've been watching. I felt a connection to them because we've been watching them all year. I watched
Yeah,
both
no,
Oregon
seriously.
games. I watched them versus USC. I watched them versus like Arizona State and just barely pulling some of these
Mhm.
games out, but like persevering. Um,
Yeah,
it was tough. It sucked
the
because
Oregon games.
it,
Oh.
I haven't had this like I was rooting for them, and I haven't had this feeling about a guy in forever with pause. I haven't had a feeling about a quarterback in forever like Penix, where it's like he's had a shitty game, he's gonna make a big play, and then he made that
Mm.
play, and they called it back because of the holding,
Oh,
um,
brutal.
which killed him. And then there was a pass interference, and they were inside the 5, but the same guy held
Yes.
again, and the penalties offset. And after
Dude,
that, it
yeah,
was over. It was
it
wraps.
was over. Yeah, they
Because they
just
were down by
couldn't
like
handle
7 the
them.
whole game. They were like it
It
was
was like, that's
totally
what
a
I'm
game,
saying.
which is the
It was
worst type of
still a
game.
game.
Which
Yeah,
is the worst
right.
a game that's not a game. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it even felt like Washington, it almost felt like going into the game, they knew they weren't going to be able to handle Michigan's pass rush. Remember, it was like a bunch of screen passes and these like
Hmm.
short little passes. I remember the first drive, I'm like, what am I watching right now? This is not what I saw last week versus Texas. It almost
Right.
feels like they just knew they were not going to be able to block those guys. But congrats to Michigan.
Yep.
They overcome was
Yep.
it the Spygate incident that happened, which is
They had two incidents. They had the recruiting
was it
stuff at the beginning of the year. I think
I might
Harbaugh
have
was
been hip
this,
to that one.
and please everybody fact check me on this because I may be wrong. I think Harbaugh was suspended for the first 3 games and the last 3 games of the season. which is insane for two different things
Yeah.
in the same
But
season.
I will say, like, since that whole Spygate thing, because there's going to be Michigan, like real Michigan haters that are just gonna be like, "Oh, this is a tainted ring." But since that Spygate incident or whatever, they beat Ohio State,
Yep.
they beat Penn State, they beat Bama, and then they beat Washington. And it was all like they beat them playing a Michigan style game. Like they controlled the style
Yes.
of the game. So
And
people
before
can
that,
say like whatever they
like,
want, but they were the best team, I think, this year.
that's a great point because before that, my criticism of them was they haven't played anybody. So it's like you
Mhm.
can say spot
Right.
get
Yeah,
it's like they're gonna beat these little schools anyways.
exactly.
Um
Exactly. Yes.
and yeah, props to them. That's the definition of a national champion.
Mhm.
Um I think the committee got it right too, by the way. We haven't talked about this in
Yes.
forever. I think last week's semifinal games just proves that the committee got it right.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
could
totally agree.
Georgia have done better today? Maybe. Probably.
Uh,
They didn't
like,
they didn't beat Alabama. They needed to beat Alabama to get there. It's the same in the
mhm.
NFL when fucking some stupid teams, some stupid team that's better than a lesser team is going to lose in the wild card. And we're going to say,
Yeah,
oh, they could have handled so and so in the next round, but they didn't. They didn't handle
right.
business. So
Mhm.
I thought the committee got it right. I thought it was a
Yeah,
great season, but it was a bummer that the game wasn't good.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you on that. Let me ask you this: do you think Harbaugh comes to the NFL? Before you answer, I want to throw this at you. He apparently hired Don Yee as his agent, and I don't know if that name
We
rings
know
bells. You're smiling, so I think you know
we
who
know
that
who that
is.
another Michigan man.
Yeah.
That's another Michigan man's
It
agent.
is. So do you think you
Tom
win the
Brady,
national title,
Michigan.
you go off on top? Do you think he comes to the NFL though? There's some vacancies which we'll talk
That's
about
a
later, but do you
there's
see that?
a I feel like there's way too much Harbaugh to the NFL talk for it not to happen. It's not just
Mm,
people there's got to be something going on.
it's not
He's
just no smoke.
accomplished what he
It's
needs to accomplish at Michigan. He did what he set out to
he
do.
did it.
He beat Ohio State,
Yeah.
which was his big thing that he can't beat Ohio
Which like
State,
never happens. Yeah.
and he won a national championship. The first one they've
Yeah.
had in 26 years, I think.
Wow. And they've always been in it. Like they were in the playoffs the year before, right?
Three
Weren't
straight
they? Or
appearances, three straight playoff
three straight
appearances.
appearances. Yeah. So I'm with you on that. He did what he had to do. So it would be kind of cool to see him come to the NFL. Um, Man, do you have any other college thoughts? There's probably a million
I'm
more
trying to
thoughts we're gonna
cover
think
some
of
ground. I'm thinking about if there's any
when we get
ground we
off.
have to cover. Uh, I think I think we save the quarterback talk for another day, like the draft. That's more of an NFL
Yeah,
draft type
that's its
deal.
own thing.
We
Yeah,
save
I
that.
agree.
Yeah, I think we save that. I was just gonna say, Florida State missing the poll, losing their quarterback. That
Sucks, but
sucks.
like
But then
it
you,
is what it is,
the way they just didn't show up to, I think it was the Orange Bowl versus Georgia.
Louisville.
Well,
Or that too, but yeah, yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah. Both
they
games, but
literally,
especially
no, like literally
they
didn't
got
show up. Like,
oh,
no, like
what was the
25
final score of
dudes.
that
No,
game?
Jay, like 26 dudes like
Oh,
didn't
like
play in the Orange Bowl.
people weren't there physically.
Yeah, and it's
That's
like
see, I
you had a chance to prove a
that's
point today
lame.
and you
Yeah.
didn't. So
A lot of guys did that. I know Caleb didn't and Drake made. And I know it's like, don't want to get injured before the draft, but it's like, I don't know, is this your last time ever playing for a
yeah,
college?
and Caleb, the backup for USC, threw 6 touchdowns. And
System
see,
quarterback? Question mark?
you're pro, you're a May guy.
I'm a May guy, which we're gonna end up with neither probably, but we'll save
Right.
that for later.
Yes.
Uh yeah, college was fun, man.
It was a
I'm so excited to
blast.
just be locked in every Saturday now going forward.
Yes. Yes. And I've added a new thing to my bucket list, which is going to some of
Yeah.
these stadiums down south.
Yeah.
But
Rose
yeah,
Bowl game. Oh, imagine. That's
fucking
like
I started it's funny, like if you told me this last year, I'd tell you you're crazy if you're like, yeah, you're gonna get into college football. You're gonna be more excited for Saturday than Sunday on certain weeks. And you're
I
gonna
feel the same
fucking
way.
You're gonna get so locked in that you're gonna like go down a Nick Saban rabbit hole where you're watching
Oh
Nick Saban
yeah.
of football life. You're watching Nick Saban pregame speeches and in seminars he gives on leadership.
Which like you kind of see why Alabama's always great
I
and
fucking
why
get
their
it.
players
I get
always
it,
are
bro.
great in the NFL. Yeah, it makes so much sense now.
Yeah, it's wait, when he says when my players are getting up for a big game, I don't like that's not how we approach it. It's not, hey, this is the biggest game of your life. It's, hey, you're about to go face the best player you've faced all year. You're about to go step in front of the best guy you have to cover all year long. Like, how are you going to prepare for that in particular? It's just that's the definition of drowning out the noise.
Yeah,
And I
that's
was
like
like,
so Belichicky,
yeah,
and it makes sense why those guys get along. And I think you sent me this TikTok. I remember seeing it before, and I
hmm
was like, "Oh, Gabe, I love this TikTok." But no, Belichick's dad, I think, was on the Navy football team's coaching staff, and Nick Saban also was,
yes,
and that's sort of how they built their relationship. And
something
you
like that.
like
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, you could just see the parallels between all these great football minds and
yeah.
who we consider the goats. But yeah, man,
Speaking of
college
Belichick.
football. Oh boy, a
Is
sad segue,
by the
but
time
a
I mean
needed
by the
one.
time this episode comes out, will he still be employed with the New England
So
Patriots?
I was gonna text you that earlier. I'm like, I'll be so pissed off if we drop this and then he gets fired and it's like, oh, but please continue.
I mean, you texted me today, Vrabel fired. I forget what you said. I think you said,
I
"Whoa,
said,
Vrabel
whoa,
fired,"
Vrabel fired.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't remember what I said, but
Whoa.
whoa,
Dot,
dot
dot,
dot
dot.
dot, yeah, and then you exclamation pointed. I send it to my uncle. I tell my uncle Vrabel fired. He goes,
Mhm.
hmm. And then I
Look,
get a text.
look, that was
I go,
everyone's
whom is
reaction.
right? And then I go back to my messages. You've also texted me, hmm. I'm like, whom is right? Uh, dude.
That's hilarious.
So I got stoked immediately on the idea of Vrabel coaching the Pats. There's a lot to unpack here, by the way. There's so much to
It's a
unpack.
lot. Yeah,
We
we're
got to
gonna
be
try to
careful.
navigate through this, but bear with us, guys.
We got to be careful. But like, Vrabel to the Pats sounded cool until I found out, the Titans haven't scored over 30, and maybe you sent me this stat. They haven't scored over
No, you
30 in a
sent me
game.
this tweet
They haven't scored over
today.
30 in a game in like 2.5 years.
That's rough. And yeah. So I'm trying to think who was on those teams. Like a Derrick Henry, a team that has Derrick Henry that's kind of in his prime, maybe it's the tail end.
hmm
That feels inexcusable. But there's probably more context to that we're not really going into. But like
Yeah.
just on the surface, that's like a yikes.
They had Hopkins this year. Of course, 2 years ago,
The
they had AJ
quarterback
Brown.
situation was a mess. Yeah. Which,
The GM's a
yes, I'm
mess.
glad you bring that up. There we go. I was gonna say, I don't know how you fired Vrabel with the roster moves that management has made over the couple years. Like, how is he the one to blame for,
I feel like
oh, you trade AJ Brown,
the
now you
GM
don't
who
have a
made that trade
receiver.
might have
Yeah.
been fired already, but I'm not sure. Like, this is a new GM since then.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
looking it
like,
up.
I think it's just I think that was a bad move by Tennessee. Like Vrabel
Yeah, I
has
agree.
proven to be a pretty good football mind. Like he's one of the sharper minds we have.
Mm.
And yeah, they
Yeah,
canned him, man. That was
this is a new GM, so this is not the guy who's
the new
like
one.
made all those bad
The AJ
moves,
Brown
really.
trade. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. Kevin Clark tweeted that like the best coaching hire, the best coach out there available right now is Mike Vrabel, which tells you that you made the wrong choice
Yeah.
by firing him because he is your best
Yeah.
option to head coach your football team.
Literally.
And that's how I feel about Bill Belichick. We're gonna fire if you
Mm.
fire him and you're looking for a new coach. Michael Hawley said this too. He said you were at that point you're an expansion team. You are a brand new organization once you fire Bill Belichick. Are you ready for that?
That's damn.
Are you ready for a complete rebuild? Forget about the fucking D. We still have defensive
Yeah.
pieces, but like it's not going to be the same on defense if you let go of Belichick. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, I let me know how do you feel about all this? Because it's a
I'm it's a mess, bro. I'm torn because oh man, I'm so torn. Because like, how much times do me and you watch on Sunday and we're texting each other, and a coach has just done
Mm-hmm.
something completely idiotic that like a 12-year-old who's played Madden for a year would know
Yes.
not to do, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
goes to, like, and I'm obviously these guys, they probably forget about more football than we'll ever know in our lives,
Yes.
but it's still some of the decision making that these coaches make. It's like, wow, that's who's your coaches. So you see that it's like, okay, I kind of want to keep Belichick, but in Belichick is also sort of the reason why we're in this situation with the roster
Yes.
moves he's made, with the power that he has, and just, you know, in the saying who's on the roster and who we're trading for, who we're drafting. Like in a perfect world, Belichick gives up the GM duties. He's focusing on football, maybe even just focusing on the defensive side of things. And we hire,
Mm-hmm.
you had a great text today where you just find me a fucking nerd on offense who, like
I
a
want
Mike
to,
McDaniel,
yeah,
someone from like that
I want a
Shanahan
nerd with
tree where it's like,
glasses
yeah, McVay, Shanahan, fucking Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick, I would, yeah,
to be
he might have
OC,
earned him a head
to
coaching
be
job.
my
Yeah, to be
OC, not
OC.
my leader of
Yeah,
men
right.
to draw plays for me.
Yeah, and then Pat Belichick just handle the defense and like oversee the overall game
Mm-hmm.
plan for for Sunday, and then just have a GM do what he does well, which is be a GM and focus on the draft and stuff. But at the same time, Gabe, I think it's sort of like Belichick's curse. Like what makes him so great as a coach, I think, is just wanting to have control over everything and having the say and the attention to detail that
Mm-hmm.
honestly don't see a world where he's willing to just give that up and still coach the Patriots, which is why I'm torn. Like I don't know, man. It's
So,
tough.
and I'm hearing mixed reports. I'm hearing, wait, and I sent it to you yesterday. Fucking bullshit. And you say like
Yeah, by the
you've
way,
been
nobody
vulnerable.
fucking knows what's gonna happen
Yes.
between yeah, but yeah, continue.
Belichick go I think Belichick said he's willing to give up some personnel decision making to
Mhm.
continue coaching this team. And I'm like, that's great. That's a step in the right direction. And then the
Right.
headline is Belichick practically begging
Yeah.
to keep his job.
Oh,
And you know where you and I stood in the Brady Belichick civil war. That wasn't a civil war between them. It's just, you
yeah.
know, all the people. This is
It was like
we do this
between
every episode.
generations, it felt like. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It
yeah.
was all the older people who tell us we're spoiled, where they were the spoiled ones because they didn't know what they had with Brady. Um, Brady goes, he wins immediately. He goes to a team that was 8-8, and they win. And they go on, they win the Super Bowl.
I can't
Uh,
help but smile when
and
I just think of
Belichick has,
that.
yeah, Belichick has been. They've been a losing franchise since. All that
Yeah.
said, Belichick doesn't deserve. I still think he's the greatest coach in NFL history. And he doesn't deserve
Yes.
um any type of. This needs, if he's getting pushed out right now, it has to be in the classiest way possible. And
Mhm.
like we just said with Vrabel, in a perfect world he stays, and we get
Right.
GM, and we get fucking offensive coordinator that's new and fresh and not somebody who's already coached for him, not a Bill O'Brien. And why I say conflicting reports about him giving up personnel decisions is I heard he's interested in bringing McDaniels back, which could be bullshit.
Almost yacked when I seen that. And
Yeah.
then I saw Mac Jones is
Yeah.
oh dude, that was depressing. That was legitimately depressing.
And that's stubborn. And if that's their thought process, that we'll figure this out. We're gonna figure it out with Mac or whatever they want to do. We're not gonna draft a
Yeah.
quarterback. Go fuck yourself. Pack your bags
Yeah.
at that point. But
Facts.
all that being said, he's still the greatest coach of all time. And even in his old age, the issue isn't, and the issue was never his coaching. It is the GM.
Never X's and O's.
The
Yeah,
X's and O's
exactly.
is still fine. The only criticism I've ever had for him coaching is there's certain times where it's like, okay, it's 4th and 2 at the 50, and you don't want to think about going for it here.
So old school. Yeah. So they just
Yeah,
completely go the other way. It's like
but then
fucking
you have
hell.
guys like Dan Campbell who they're going for the 2 point at the end
Oh,
of the game, and there's a penalty, and which was bullshit penalty, but
it
nonetheless,
was.
now you're at the 7 or the 8, and you're still gonna go for two, and the element
Yeah.
of surprise is gone. It's like Bill would never do that.
I couldn't do yeah, you just
And I
reminded me of
love Dan
how mad
Campbell,
I
but
was
still.
watching the end of that Lions Cowboys game. That was just oh, that was terrible. But Yeah, I don't know, man. Belichick, like you said, he's still sharp, like as sharp as it gets when it comes to the X's and O's. Like our defense was really good this year. All things considered, the amount of times the offense turned the ball over, and I don't know the numbers, but I bet
Elite
our defense was
defense.
probably in the worst situation, like
Elite
field of possession
defense.
wise. Yeah. Just the amount of times they had to probably be in the red zone already because Mac Jones fucking threw the ball off his head and it got picked off.
Yeah.
Elite defense, like you said. But
Every week. There wasn't a time where they gave up. They probably wasn't a time where they gave up 30. Anytime the Pats got routed and the other team had 30, 40 points, it's because Mac Jones or Zappy or whoever threw fucking three pick
yeah, it's
sixes.
because the offense had like way more possession than like that's ever normal for a team to have in a game. Uh damn, yeah, it's tough. Okay, so like you said, there's so much to just parse through here. Say we keep Bill.
Hmm.
Here's another thing that concerns me too. I don't know where I saw this, but the last first round Pro Bowler that Belichick drafted was Jerron Mayo. Is that right?
Wait, the
That's like
last
May
first
Mayo was
round Pro Bowler?
first round Pro Bowler,
That
or is
doesn't make sense. Well,
that
technically
can't
Mac
be right?
Jones. Technically Mac Jones was in the
Oh,
Pro
right. Well,
Bowl.
yeah. Nowadays, fucking Josh Dobbs is going to make the Pro Bowl this year.
Gonzalez would have been a
Um,
Pro Bowler probably. I think anybody,
he was
everybody makes
awesome.
a Pro Bowl though.
Yeah, but I guess like back then it felt like it mattered more because
When did you
guys were
draft
missing
Jerron
games and
Mayo?
20.
What about Gronk?
Well, Gronk first round. I thought he was second.
Oh, what was Hightower? What was Chandler Jones?
Hightower, and now we
Now
hit
we now,
Google.
yes.
Let's
God bless.
see.
So happy Hightower's not part of this mess this year.
I
He got
know.
out.
Oh
He
yeah,
got out
he
just in
just got
time.
out. Okay, so oh boy, this is scary stuff. Oh, okay. So, well, McCourty was 2010. He was a
Okay.
first rounder. Gronk was a second rounder. After that, Nate Soldier. Yeah, that can't be right because Chandler Jones was the first round in 2012 and Hightower. They both made Pro Bowls. So I don't know.
Oh,
Okay, I
yeah.
might be.
Hightower was picked 25 round one, 2012.
Yeah,
Bama. Bama.
Bama made one of the most clutch defensive plays ever made in just Patriots history, in my opinion, was
Two of them.
Hightower
Two of them.
against Atlanta. Facts. Yeah.
Because
Chandler Jones was also that year.
there's a strip sack, and then he tackled Lynch right at the goal
Lynch,
line
yeah.
in Super Bowl 49.
Fucking love that guy. Damn. It's so scary. Like after 2014 on, it's a very scary track record that Belichick has in
Hmm.
the draft.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess well, the point I was really trying to make is like it's been bad. He's been a bad
Yes.
drafter of players, bad evaluator of guys in college. I don't know what goes into his decision making,
Hmm.
but clearly it's not working. But say we keep Belichick and we have the third pick now because we just Denver, oh,
They
that
really
game that will
wanted to
haunt us
beat.
forever.
They really wanted to beat Denver on Christmas Eve for whatever reason.
That game was so stupid, bro. Oh my God. But okay, Belichick, we keep Belichick, we find a GM. Probably doesn't happen, but let's just, for the exercise, and we have the third pick. Do you take a receiver? Are you trading up? Are you
Mm.
trading back? Which Belichick has been known to do. What do you
So
think might happen with that?
the reason I was upset for multiple reasons. That was bad English. But Belichick loves to trade back. And I feel like if he had the
Loves
chance at
to.
May or Caleb, he wouldn't be justified in doing so. And now that he has the third pick, he can feel justified in
Mm.
trading back, which I almost feel like it was his plan all along.
No
I,
for
s-
him.
I brought this to your attention earlier. Would they like, because this isn't, Rome's not going to be built in a day. Are
Overnight,
they just
yeah.
going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then load up on skill positions and suck again next year and then take the best quarterback available next year? Are they going to do that? I doubt it. I think they take
Yeah.
a quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade up to get Drake May.
I'm
Um,
all for that. I'm all for that. If Belichick is man, then that means he's the GM though. I don't know what the fuck's
right,
gonna happen, but I'm all for trading up. It's just I don't see that if Belichick is the guy making the decisions.
right. They're
It's
trading
just like
back. They're
we're back at a
taking
dead end. Yeah,
they're taking a lineman, and then they're taking a
you're taking a
quarterback.
lineman.
They're
Yeah.
taking a lineman, then they're taking Bo Nix in like round three. Oh, Bo. Oh, Bo.
So I know facts. Just would you prefer that though? Would you prefer taking Marvin with the third pick and then just building the offense this year and maybe just waiting next year if a quarterback pops in the draft?
It's
Considering
tough.
we can't trade up,
This is
like if you're
supposed to
just
be a
stuck at
really
three.
good draft class.
Yeah.
For quarterbacks, like specific, like really good. But there was quarterbacks that are not coming out that I really liked, personally, and not
Is,
that I'm,
is,
uh,
is yours coming out?
yours isn't coming out. Jordan
He's
Travis
not.
is really good on Florida State, and he's gonna have another year to
He's
develop.
staying.
Shader Sanders.
Mhm.
So there's still, that's why I'm like, there might be a guy that they're looking at that they're like, okay, we're not getting Caleb. He wouldn't even fit the Patriots mold anyways. Um,
Yeah.
we have no chance at Drake May. Let's just wait until next year. We'll take Marvin Harris Jr., which would be really cool to have a really good receiver, like a can't miss receiver. The
He's a
Patriots,
stud, right?
we never
Yeah.
have that. We never have that.
Never. Since
Um,
Moss, I think, was like our last stud. He could be the best receiver in the league, I would say.
yeah, exactly.
No disrespect to the playoff legends we've had over the years, but like a guy who
They're
was like, oh,
absolute
he's all
gamers.
pro.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Give me fucking Edelman and Amendola and let's go to war. But
For
somebody
sure.
really cool and flashy, all pro guy, like give me that. Let me get a taste of
Yeah.
that.
So,
Let me get a
so
Justin Jefferson there.
Jefferson, he's 1K, 10 games, five different quarterbacks, special. But so the argument I saw against that, which I was like, I don't know if that really applies to our situation, was that's what Atlanta's been doing.
Mm.
Like they took Pitts
But
high
their
in the
coach is a
draft, they went
fucking
Bijan.
moron.
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't really know exactly. Like I don't, I don't know if that really applies to us. But honestly, bro, I think that's I'm with you. I would take Marvin, maybe even take another receiver because we have like I think the 35th
Yeah.
pick in the second round, and you
Trade
like
up for
there's
another
like
receiver.
yeah, why not? And bro, I saw this. I don't know if you saw this, but I was on TikTok earlier. I think it was Twitter. I forgot where I saw it, but um, Tim Simmons was like talk. It was like
Was
a
it
quote
him
about what
walking?
Simmons. Yeah, it's like what
I
he
didn't
think might
watch it, but I was
happen.
like, yo, why is he filming himself like going for a walk right now?
So he was saying that um it includes Belichick leaving the
Hmm.
Patriots, unfortunately, but it was we, I guess, let Belichick off the contract. But that's important to mention. Belichick is like under contract for a couple
Hmm.
more years.
Yeah.
Um,
As we know
but
that
he was like,
they beat the Bills. That's when that
yeah,
leaked.
which is I think he mentioned it too. After the which is I guess that's like usually not a thing with Belichick to ever talk about contracts,
Nope.
but for the first time this year, he finally brought it up, which is another like eyebrow raiser. But Simmons was like, let Belichick off the contract or whatever. Trade him to Atlanta, I guess, like a trade, but not really, but give him to Atlanta.
Yeah.
They give us the eighth pick in the draft. So now we have the eighth pick and the third pick.
Yeah.
And we give them our second rounder, the 35th pick in Belichick, which was like, I mean, I don't want to, I'd rather not lose Belichick, but that made me think like, oh, we have three and eight. Like, we kind of get
Yeah.
crazy. But
It's so tricky.
Simmons likes to live in a fairy tale sometimes.
Exactly. But that's your thing. We're talking here in my head. I'm like, I could say some crazy shit right now.
Yeah, facts.
I could say let's trade back. Let's get fucking Jaden Daniels and then trade up for receivers and we can get Jaden Daniels and neighbors. Or
Yeah,
we can get Jaden Daniel. We can get like three stud receivers we saw this year in the draft.
facts.
But I just
Mhm.
don't understand football. And I keep coming back to that Michael Hawley comment really scared me, where it's like, you lose Belichick, you are an expansion team now. You are starting
Yeah,
from scratch.
that's a scary quote.
And a lot of these guys look incredible in college, and we just never know. So like
Yeah,
you could end up you could end up being the Carolina Panthers all of a sudden.
it's the biggest crapshoot in sports is trying to predict, especially with quarterback, who's going to be good
Rosillo.
coming into like it's the biggest, bro. You don't know what. There's no
Yeah.
way anyone knows.
Yeah.
But
Except we knew of CJ. That's a story for another day.
yes, yeah. CJ, the one game is all I needed to see. I didn't
Yeah.
really care what happened for Ohio State the rest of the year, nor was I watching. But CJ, he's proved it. He's proved it this year. But
Yep.
does this transition us into the rest of the NFL? And maybe do we start with? Well,
Sure.
okay, so do you because there's some
Do
other
we
storylines. Like
should
I
we
had,
should we just say goodbye
what's
to
up?
Belichick? Do we say goodbye or
I'm not ready yet.
all
I'm
right, I'm
just
not
not
ready either.
ready.
Not as
Like,
bad as
yeah,
with Brady where it was like I was like
like really
broken.
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was a tough day.
But still it's like an
It'll
very
hurt.
elderly person. Not that
Yeah.
he's elderly in the grand scheme of life, like he's still a youthful 71-year-old. I don't mean that
Mhm.
as a joke either. But like
No,
it's
he's like,
almost
yeah,
like,
I'm with you.
you know, you're
It's
losing
a
you're losing
it's like a
somebody who's
family
been in your
member,
life for, yeah,
man.
exactly. You're losing
Yeah,
somebody who's
this
been in your life
guy's
forever, which is
yeah, my
why I
old some of my
don't like the
oldest
disrespect.
memories are with him.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
like
with you.
I'm all about the valid criticism, like with Rosillo.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
continue to bring him up. That's one of the themes of this podcast. We mentioned him a million times an episode.
Yeah.
It's just straight use. He's been on it for years. He's sucked in the draft, but he's
Mhm. Yeah, that's what
X's
I'm
and
saying.
O's.
Yeah,
But X's and O's
we
is a great
have
head coach.
enough of a sample size to
Yeah,
come to a conclusion where we can criticize him. Yes.
yeah. He's still pitching a fastball, X's and O's, but it's
Mhm.
it's it's the drafting. It's the where you're sending your money. Jonnu Smith, all that stuff.
Juju. Oh,
Juju. We had Aguilar. We had
Devontae Parker, didn't we give him like a
Devontae
3-year
Parker.
deal? We're
Yeah.
giving like number three guys these
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
pretty decent contracts. Yeah.
And then your son's on the staff, and it's bringing in Patricia, and it's bringing in O'Brien and
Mhm.
McDaniels, and all that stuff
Yeah.
considered. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I hope they can work something out so that we can get a few more years of this guy, and he can go
Yeah.
out a little more gracefully than this. But of
Yeah.
course, it's not
I don't want to end like
it's
this.
not always a happy ending, but still,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can move. We can talk some teams that are in the playoffs.
To be continued. Yes. I wanted to just start. Is Baltimore the best team in football? I'm just gonna throw that question at you right away.
Well, by throwing that question at me, I'm gonna take this opportunity to give
Yeah,
you
I
your
set that up.
flowers. Yeah, thanks for the alley oop there. Let me give you your flowers. Jay, if you guys go back and listen on this podcast, Jay was in on Baltimore from week one. Even before week one, you said there was something about their defense. Uh, I couldn't quite see it because they're always in the mix, but they were never a team to take seriously. They're always in the Lamar era. They've been out in the divisional. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, throughout the year, he was on my fantasy team. I became the biggest Lamar fan. I've been singing his praises all year. But Jay, before everybody else, Jay was the one to say the Ravens are for real. They are contenders, and I was very hesitant to agree with you until they destroyed Detroit. Whatever week that was. It was
Yeah.
earlier in the year, but ever
Dude,
since
that
then, I've
was
been with you.
a statement.
And
Yeah.
they are the number one. You have to say they are the number one team. Once they crushed San Francisco, who I assumed was when they're healthy, no one's touching San Francisco, and that's clearly not
Mhm.
the case after that Ravens game.
They showed that there's like some not big holes, but there's some holes that another elite team could exploit,
Yes.
like Baltimore. Um, Let me, you know what's crazy? I'm looking at it now. Lamar, he didn't finish the 21 season or the 22 season. So I think
Mhm.
there was just sort of this kind of taste in our mouths, like Baltimore, like are they really like that, in that upper echelon of great teams? But Lamar just hasn't been healthy,
Yeah.
you know, to end both the last two seasons. He's finally healthy now. Like you mentioned, the defense is
Pocket
great.
passing.
I'm Yeah. And you know what's like sort of just watching him now, he's not like as explosive. Like
Nope.
remember his first 3 years, he's doing fucking spin moves and he's just blowing by. It's like now he's still obviously he could still,
He can do
take
that.
off and blow
Yeah.
by guys. Yeah, but it's like he'll take us a little 10 yards and then he'll kind of like,
It's Mahomey.
duck down.
He's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
Mahomey. Yeah.
He's putting weight too, I think. Like he looks
Yeah.
bigger than when he came, which is naturally that should happen. But pocket passer, man. And that was always my hesitancy with Lamar. It's like, can he
Yes.
just sit in the pocket and win you games? And we've yet to see it in the playoffs, but I think we have enough of a sample size this year where it's like, this guy could do it, bro.
Yes.
He's a special, special talent. So, to answer my own question, I also think they're the best team in football. Um,
Both sides of the ball.
yeah, and it's crazy because they don't Mark Andrews, they lost him. Yeah, both sides. They might get him back, but losing Mark Andrews now, this likely kid is
Yep.
looking like a top five tight end.
Yeah.
Man, what a story. What a story. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for them too. I think that's my like the number one rooting interest for me is Baltimore.
That's something
Big.
that's happened to me as I age. Like it's less about when I didn't have a dog in the race growing up, it was always the underdog. The 8 seed versus the 1 seed in the NBA playoffs. Like I'm always gonna be pulling for the 8 seed. Now
Yeah.
it's like Lamar, and it's similar to my thing about Brady. It's like coming out of college, he was counted out. We watched our team pass on him. We watched a lot of teams pass on Lamar. He has a great rookie season. And then he's MVP, and then
Yeah. That's
he
right.
has this contract situation this year. He
Ah,
hasn't been. He's never been a bad teammate. Um, he's never gotten in trouble with the law. And there's this
nope.
whole contract thing where nobody wants to sign him. Anybody could, and it's a little like
He's blackballed
it,
almost. It was
not
weird.
not completely everybody could have signed him. Like obviously there's teams that are not going to sign him because they're set at quarterback. The Chiefs are not going to go
Yeah.
after Lamar Jackson. Well, they have Patrick Mahomes, shit like that. But like
Right,
teams like the
right.
Falcons, they said it the other day. There's four. I think there's three. There were four
Yeah, I'm gonna try to pull
that immediately
that
said
tweet
we're
up.
not taking this guy, and all four of the coaches have been fired.
Falcons, Panthers, Commanders, and Raiders were all four teams that passed on him. And Falcons quarterback, it was Desmond Ritter. At times, it was Heineke. Panthers, whatever, they got Bryce Young.
Yeah,
Commanders, Sam Howell, and the Raiders. Who was it? Jimmy G, and
Jimmy
then
G, then McConnell.
AJ McConnell, whatever his name is. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, case in point,
yeah. And McDaniels is gone. I think Rivera is on his way out if
he's
he's
gone.
not
He's
already.
yeah, I seen something about
Arthur
that.
Smith was decapitated after the game. Uh, and then the Panthers coach has also been fired. So, and the GM for the Panthers, I think, was fired at the same time as the
They
coach.
just they cleaned
So,
house.
yeah, they
Yeah,
cleaned house. But all that said, you have to root for the guy. And it's the way he's developed his game too, where yeah, like I said, like he's pocket passing, and that's a win-win because it makes you more dangerous in
mm,
games where they're gonna have a QB spy on you and everything, and makes
yeah,
you more of a legitimate dual threat, not just like
yeah.
read option shit, like an actual.
Right.
You can be Brady, and then you could be fucking I don't know Saquon Barkley out the backfield if you want to,
Yeah.
and then
Like,
also you're saving your legs
yeah.
when you're doing that.
100%. Yeah. The career is longer. I'm not even like exaggerating, bro. He had this couple of throws in that game against the Dolphins. Now it's going to be 2 weeks ago. That were the
Yes.
best throws I've seen all season.
Yeah.
Like there was one where he's like, you can't even really explain it. It's like something you just have to watch and you just like, you'll
Hmm.
just watch it in awe. But he's like, you can tell it's just all arm. And he's like, the defender's like coming at him and he just flicks it and it goes like 40 yards down the field to
Yeah.
Odell. He has another
Odell,
one where Odell, who's
who
been
people
he's
thought
been balling for
was
them.
done, who people thought was
That's a
done.
happy story. Yeah, I'm glad he's been doing his thing. And then he even had another play in that game. It was the touchdown to Zay Flowers, where they were. I sent you this. They were asking the Dolphins player like what happened, all that. He was like, "Bro, that was just fucking
Yeah.
crazy."
Yeah.
Like, he was like, I don't even know how he did that, but he did. It's like, yeah, this guy's clearly the MVP, a top three quarterback in today's game for sure.
Easily.
And it's gonna be fun to watch him in the playoffs.
And then people are like, well, in the past, we've done numbers. And if you take Purdy's numbers, and I'm like, all I have to tell you is you switch Purdy and Jackson. And the
Oh
best
my,
team in
it's the
football is
greatest
all of
team
a
ever.
sudden then all of a sudden we're saying San Francisco is the best. And the
Yeah.
Ravens aren't nearly as good if you take Lamar off their team.
Oh,
You put him on
dude.
any
Yeah.
team and they're probably in the playoffs the way he played this year. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, that's I'm rooting for him specifically. I hate Harbaugh, as we've discussed throughout
I
the year.
know.
But
I'm with you
I'm
on
rooting for
that.
Lamar specifically, and I'm just rooting for like a really great team to be rewarded.
Yes. Yeah. So you were mentioning earlier how like before when you were younger, it was like the
Hmm.
8 seed and you want the
Yeah.
Cinderella story. And I was like that too. But I think as we've gotten older, there's just more of an appreciation for like just handling your business
Yes.
greatness. Cause like now if it's unless I really like unless like it's the fucking Lakers in the NBA finals or
Right.
something, if it's like the best team and my team's not in it, like if my team is not in it, I want the best team to win. I just think that there's something sort of
Or the team that does things the right
satisfying,
way. Yeah.
yeah, the way it plays out. I think it should just play out that way, which it doesn't always, which is why sports is sports.
Right.
But yeah, shout out to Baltimore. Um, and the Niners, I was gonna ask because like the Niners are probably the other team who we think is maybe the
Hmm.
best team in football. Remember the stat I sent you a few weeks ago? I heard it on some podcast, but Shanahan being 0-38 when trailing by 8+ points in the fourth quarter since 2017.
Yeah.
Like what was really crazy about that is like the 0-38 is kind of jarring, but every other team in the league has at least one win
Every other
in
team,
that time
even the
span.
bad teams.
And yeah, that's what I'm saying. And there's been some bad quarterbacks on some
Yeah.
bad teams. So I don't know what to make of that. Like Shanahan is clearly one of the best coaches in the league,
Hmm.
but there is something there. Or I don't know. Am
Yeah.
I crazy? How do you feel about that?
Perhaps a great play caller and not as good at, riling up the troops.
Yeah, I was feeling that way
And also,
too.
he hasn't had that great quarterback. And I think you need a great
Mm,
quarterback to do when it comes to straight up magic, as we saw, we're Patriots fans, we saw 28-3. Sorry, Gene.
yeah.
Uh, when you see what that has a lot to do with the quarterback and the team leaders. And Purdy, I think we've seen Purdy. I don't think Purdy is as bad as we've seen him be, and I don't think he's as great as the numbers say. It's somewhere in between.
Yes.
And I would lean
Totally
towards he's a
agree.
good quarterback. I don't think he's a
Same here.
superstar, but I think he's a good, solid quarterback who you could win a Super Bowl with. And
Yeah.
it's funny, before you even said that stat just now, Jay, when you brought up San Francisco, the first thing I was thinking of, like, I thought you were going to ask me, how do you think they'll fare in the NFC playoff picture, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, well, if they get a lead, they're winning the game. But what if they go
Yeah.
down?
Exactly. That's my thing too,
Yeah.
man. Like Purdy kind of feels like a guy similar
To,
to Tua in Miami.
yeah, I
And
knew you were going to
it's like
fucking say that. Yeah.
you see that coming, right? But it's like
Yeah.
similar schemes like these like brainiac head coaches. And Jared Goff has been great in Detroit. And I'm loving this rebirth, but doesn't it
Yes.
also kind of remind you of the Jared Goff Rams? Like the
Yes.
vibes during where
Everything's
it's
going
like
right.
McVay, and it's so funny. Do you remember this the crazy graphic they put up in the Texans Colts game where it's like the 2013 Washington coaching staff? It was like Bobby Slowick,
Yes.
who's the OC of the Texans, Mike McDaniels, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan. And it's like all these guys now are just doing great, great things, and they've just built these amazing systems, but doesn't always until Stafford went to LA, it feels like they never really had the quarterback to really take it
Yeah.
to the next level. And I kind of feel like that with Purdy in San Francisco, which might not be fair. I feel
Hmm.
like that with Tua in Miami. Reminds me of Goff in LA, which goes back to your point, like
Yeah.
when you're down 10 right away, like just right away, like in that Baltimore
Yeah.
Niners game Monday night, how's this guy gonna fare? Which
Right.
it's a fair question, man.
Yeah. You bring up Tua. I feel even worse about Tua. In regards to names
Me
you just
too.
mentioned, like I feel even worse. I think he's completely helpless when it's time to make a play. Where I've seen
I'm
Jared Goff
saying,
make some plays. I've seen it. He's done a lot of dumb
yeah,
shit too, but I've seen him make
mhm,
plays where Tua, it's
yeah.
just like, are you open on the side of the field? Nope. Crap. The
His
pocket's
misses just
collapsing.
feel way
Interception.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then Purdy, I
he's like in the
I still
Goff tier
feel,
for me.
yeah, I feel a little better about Purdy than I do Tua too, for sure. Tua,
Same.
when it's
Yeah, I'm
bad,
with
it's
you,
bad. It's bad, it's bad.
dude.
And he can't fall back
Mhm.
on the injury excuse anymore. which he got to
Mhm.
do last year and the year before. Um,
Yeah,
I think there was people shit on Flores and they're like McDaniel saved Tua, and I'm like, I think McDaniels has shown he's a great play caller and a
it's
great like
definitely
quarterback
bright mind
whisperer, but you
for
haven't
sure.
saved my perception of Tua. I still feel the way
No.
same way I did when Flores was his coach and Flores was out on him, which is his prerogative, and McDaniels has his own. And
Mhm.
anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. So do we wanna pick these games and
I
maybe
was
talk
gonna say
about
this
yeah.
perfect just leads us right into the prediction. So I mean the first game I had, I'll throw it at you. Houston hosting the Cleveland Browns.
Mm,
I think Saturday, 3:30. They I mean, this game, I don't this game could there's so much different outcomes. This could be a
yeah,
shootout, this could be
yeah.
a dogfight. What's your like just initial gut feeling seeing this on the schedule?
I think both of these in anime, it's or anime and like whatever you read like comics and shit. They call it a hacks
Mhm.
ability where there's a character. There's like Giorno versus Superman, right? Giorno from JoJo.
Mhm.
I'm losing a lot of
Yeah,
people right now. I'm losing a lot of people right now listening
we're
to this.
good.
Superman's stronger, but Giorno has that like hacks ability where it's like reverse whatever you do to me. If you attack Giorno, you die. That's his power. Remember at the end?
Yes, I
That's
do. Yep, yep.
so like I feel like Flacco and Stroud have this hacks ability where they can
It's
just
two
pull the
forces.
rabbit out of the house, pull the rabbit out of
Yeah.
the hat. They both have that ability. Stroud's obviously better, but Flacco's been
Mhm.
there. He's afraid of nothing. He's living the dream. And it's just been
Yeah.
great ever since he's picked up the quarterbacking job for Cleveland. I think Cleveland's defense is gonna probably maul Houston. Houston barely
Mm.
scraped past um
Indy.
Indy. I hate to count
Yeah.
CJ Stroud out. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston won, but I'm going with Cleveland.
Yeah. I think Cleveland's the rest. So man. To be honest, I'm going Houston, but
Oh,
Cleveland is probably the better team. But to your point about the accessibility, I just feel like CJ might have a little bit more of that. And maybe
mm-hmm.
it's because he's younger. I don't know, but I don't like it's crazy because they like even in that Indy game, they Indy was the better team, but past few weeks, like they've lost who was the stud rookie? Tank Dell, Robert
Yeah.
Woods, which is like every year with him, he eventually gets
Mm-hmm.
injured. Like, they've lost like number one, number two options. And the play calling from Slowick and how it just coalesces with how Stroud is just able to always make the right throw.
Yep.
I think that's a special connection they
He's
have. So I
amazing.
think Stroud is the first play of the game is a seven in that game
Yep.
against Indy is a 75-yard bomb. And Stroud after the game is like, yeah, Bobby's a dog. And I'm sure if you ask Bobby, he's gonna say like CJ's a dog. Like
Yeah.
they just coalesce so well.
Yeah. That Rome
Ah,
wasn't built in a day thing I said about the Pats earlier. CJ's the exception because they went from the worst team in the
facts.
league and now they're hosting a playoff game.
Insane. They won the fucking division. Like
Yeah.
that's insane. Yeah. So I'm gonna go Houston over Cleveland, but and that's gonna be a great game.
Yeah.
Those are two really good teams.
Never say never with either of these teams, honestly.
Exactly.
The way
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
season's
I
gone.
almost don't want to pick just
Yeah.
because both
I
these teams
feel
could
you.
easily win, but just
Yeah.
for
I
the
don't feel
sake of the pod.
super strongly about my pick, but like I feel
No
pretty good
way.
about the Browns defense. And
That's fair. Yeah.
the Texans have seemed to have unlocked a certain thing with Flacco and Njoku.
Yeah.
How's Cooper's?
So
Cooper,
we
because
got
Cooper went down. Is he back?
he did, right?
He went
I'm
down a
not
couple weeks
sure to
ago.
be honest.
All right. Well, that would somewhat impact my pick, but I'd probably still pick um
I mean,
Cleveland.
Flacco's just gonna find another guy that's gonna have
Yeah.
200 receiving yards.
Yeah.
That's another awesome story. A dying breed, Joe Flacco is the last of a dying
Hmm.
breed.
Yeah.
Like he was playing at a time where the quarterback position was deep.
And
All right,
he's
so you got
best in
Cleveland,
the
I got Houston. Yeah, go
he's
ahead.
at his most scary in the playoffs.
Yes, yeah. Denver
I,
fans, I'm sure they remember.
and I sent you that great Patriots 2015 roster earlier.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
lining
yeah.
up. That
Yo,
team barely beat that Baltimore team because Flacco was
we were
terrifying.
down 14 twice in that
Yep.
game.
Yep.
We were down two scores twice, and thank
Yeah.
God we had to go. All right,
Exactly.
next game.
All right. Yeah. Give it to
Kansas
me.
City
Ah,
hosting Miami. And this is going to be on Peacock, by the way, which
all
is,
right.
I can't
It's on
even
the
believe
cock.
that it's on the cock. Yeah. But KC hosting Miami.
Yeah.
I picked KC.
Yeah.
Another one I don't feel great about because, as we know, they've
Yeah.
been a complete mess for the past, honestly, the whole season, probably. Like,
Yeah.
I know they won a lot of games early on and it felt like they were still KC and the
Mhm.
champs, but looking back now, this team was just a mess from
Yeah.
the second that first game against Detroit. But I think I'll give them one.
It's Mahomes versus
And
Tua. It's Mahomes versus
exactly,
Tua.
yeah, right,
We're
yeah,
both we're both riding KC. And despite me
okay,
thinking Miami's frauds, earlier when I said, I root for the team that I think is best, or like this is not one of those situations. Like I would like to see Miami. I'd like to see KC go down. Um,
yeah.
and of course, next round we could potentially get Buffalo KC rematch, which would be sick. I'm kind of rooting for that, but I think I'm over the KC bullshit. I'm over it.
Me too.
Um,
The complete season was a circus.
yes.
Kelsey
They're lucky
completely
they're in
finished
that
himself.
division. All the fucking shit
Yeah,
I heard about,
yes,
all the people already
good
crying
point.
Mahomes to go, all the shit I heard about Brady with their weak ass division. The Chiefs went 10-7, almost almost
Yeah,
9 and
what
8.
did they finished 11-6, but I think
Oh,
the
11 and
last
6. They
like
almost finished 10-7.
10-7,
Whatever it
which
is.
11-6 kind of looks better, but if you were really watching, like
Worst
to your
division in
point, then
football. Worst division in football,
yeah,
arguably.
I remember texting you
Nonetheless,
this, but like there
when
was never a team as good as the Mark Sanchez Jets in this AFC West Mahomes era
yeah,
timeline that we're in right now.
yeah.
By the way, that game is going to be -2 degrees. That's
There's
just
zero
that
chance
is
Miami might have to get back in the betting game for that one. There's zero
you
chance
know
Miami
check out the
pulls that
spread
out.
on that. Maybe tease it up a little.
Two is getting carted off
Yeah,
by the second. God forbid he's getting carted off by like the second half. There's no chance he even survives
Tyreek
that
Hill
game.
return game. I don't know how much that means, but there's a little storyline there as well. But we're both Casey. Yeah, I think we can move on.
I think, yeah, I agree. I would say
Yeah.
keys to success for Miami is to just control the time of possession. Keep Mahomes off the field.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like this is like this KC team is so beatable,
Yes.
but
Just don't give
it's
them a million
just
chances.
yeah, exactly. Which we'll see with Miami. Maybe they lean into the run game, which has worked out well for them this year with
Yeah.
Achan and those
Two-headed
guys.
monster.
But
Still healthy. Both of them.
yeah,
And there's a
we'll
third.
see.
They have a
But
third guy that they be busting
yeah,
out
there's
there.
a
I can't remember his
Jeff
name.
Wilson, I think. It's Jeff Wilson, right?
Yeah, I think he's
So
like the
it's
tallest one of
Achan,
the three.
Mostert, Wilson. Yeah, just a bunch of speedsters. Um, so there's a world, but I feel good about KC. And then last of the AFC matchups, Buffalo hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers,
I
who I don't know how they got into the playoffs, but
yeah.
they're in.
I mean, I've texted you, Jay. Congratulations to Mike Tomlin for like 15 straight years of mediocrity. Um, t- when are I don't know if Steelers fans realize yet that this is low key not a good thing, that you're just constantly in purgatory.
Right.
At the end of the day, you can be happy with like the all-time wins and whatnot, but you have not won a Super Bowl since 2009. Um, so whatever. I'll really be depressed if Buffalo is to blow this, and
Doesn't
hopefully
doesn't
they
this feel
don't.
like a game that's gonna be like 10-7 going into the fourth?
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett has like 5 completions for like 200 yards because there have been 2 bombs to Pickens.
Hmm.
Josh Allen has 3 turnovers. Like this, out of all the games, even in the NFC side, out of all the wild card games this weekend, this one has the weirdest, like the most weird potential, I think,
Yeah.
where things could just get wonky. But you have to pick Buffalo
I
still.
think did TJ Watt go down?
Yeah, I think he's out
So
actually. He's not gonna play.
yeah. So
That's a big factor.
it might be a lost cause for Pittsburgh. It sucks that they got in. No offense to Steelers
Yeah.
fans. It's just gonna be they're just a boring team to watch, and they're good enough on defense to make it a boring game throughout. But
Right.
hopefully Buffalo just puts on a laser show, and I'm picking Buffalo,
Yeah.
but
For sure. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
so goofy that you could see. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
shocked if they blew it.
Me neither. Not at all. Like, which Josh Allen are you going to get? Are you going to get three picks and like that? Remember that Sunday night game against the Giants where he was just a mess?
Oh
And
my
there's
God.
been a couple of those this season. Or
He's
are you going to
sitting right
get
here.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, 400 yards, bunch of bombs to Diggs and Gabe Davis,
Hmm.
and like which Josh Allen are you going to get? He's a roller coaster. But I'm with you. I'm going Buffalo. All right, the NFC side. I'm going to save the obviously the spiciest game for last, but
Yes.
Philly hosting Tampa.
Tampa's hosting Philly, aren't they? They're the champs, right?
You're right. Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tampa is hosting. It's going to be our Raymond James.
Yeah.
There's
Our
going to be some
former,
cannons being fired
our
potentially.
old flame, the Tampa Bay
Mm-hmm.
Buccaneers.
Good
Um,
catch. Yeah, Tampa's
I
hosting.
do. Another game I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa won.
Right?
I'm tempted to pick them, but I feel like all the energy is just so anti-Philly right now that they're gonna at least pull this one out.
Yeah, I feel the same way, honestly. I'm obviously going to be rooting for Tampa, but Philly's going to flame out, just not this week. Kind of like KC. I think both of
Right.
them, like, it's not their week yet, but
Yeah.
I don't see
Yeah.
either team going to. I'll be shocked if either of them make it to the conference game. So
Yep.
we agree there. This one, Dallas hosting Green Bay. It's been
Fun. Fun.
yeah, and like some fun memories that come out of like Dallas Green Bay
Yes.
playoff games. But
Mhm.
yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. Uh, this is another one where I'm rooting for Green Bay, but I think Dallas pulls it out.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I don't really care who wins. I think it would be fun seeing like Dallas actually be competitive in an NFC title game. And we haven't gotten that.
Yeah,
They just get fucking they get their asses handed to them by San
destroyed.
Francisco
Yeah,
every year. But
yeah.
I don't
Either that
trust
or it's
Green
like a
Bay.
stupid
Yeah.
ending.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick Dallas.
Okay, so yeah, we're on the same page there.
We're on the same page on
And,
everything so far except you have Texans because you're a
and
hometown boy. And
yeah,
then I'm
backyard.
Browns.
Literally like a 10-minute walk from NRG, by the way.
Wow.
Uh yeah,
Should
it
be
was so
there.
close. It's crazy. I was looking at tickets and it was like it's a little bit steep. If it was
Really?
like, I mean,
At NRG Stadium, I'd be looking up like I just get
maybe you
curious.
could convince me, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Those prices were kind of
It's like I swear
maybe.
like there's like $2 tickets anytime I look up Texan. I'm sure a playoff game's more expensive.
Yeah, because it's playoff. But the regular season games, dude, there were a couple where it's just I'm definitely gonna make an effort next year, but they're
Eh,
like 50 bills
You
for like
have
good
to now. You
seats.
gotta be a season
Yeah,
ticket holder. You
nah.
got the next Brady on the team.
CJ, yeah. The main event, Gabe,
Mm.
Matthew Stafford returning to Detroit to face the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff's revenge game.
Mm-hmm.
Both quarterbacks were on opposite teams. There was a trade that went down. Obviously, Stafford wins the Super Bowl with the
Mm-hmm.
Rams. Goff has a rebirth in Detroit. Who do you have in this one? Oh, I'm
This
so
is the
excited for
game I
this
care
game.
about the most in terms of I really, really hope Detroit wins. And I think the Rams are gonna win. And I think there's a there's a
Same.
there's a world where the Rams like kill them. I could see like I could see like 35
Uh,
to 14 or something. It'll be
oh,
a fucking
dude,
bummer. It'll be a bummer. Is this on a Saturday night?
I'm not sure actually. I think it's on Sunday night.
Oh,
I think
okay. I
that
could see
might
myself.
be
This is one of those games where I get so depressed I just check out of the game by like the third quarter.
it is yep, Sunday night. It's how we're going out for the wild card weekend. Dude, I feel the same exact
Oh,
way.
isn't
I,
no, isn't the Eagles Tampa game on Monday night? Just like last year, Brady's last
that
game.
just came to my mind because they were like, wasn't there two Monday night games when they started this wild card weekend
Hmm.
shit? Like, wasn't that a
Something like
thing?
that.
I didn't check this when the games were being. I know like a couple of them, but let me see. Eagles versus the Bucks. That is on. Yeah, that's Monday, 7 p.m. So that's how we're going out. Raymond James Stadium.
Mm.
Monday night. Oh man. But bro, I feel the same way about this Rams Lions game. I think it's gonna get like just the Lions are so I don't know, man. They're just
They're
cursed, I
very,
feel like.
I
I
love
hate to
them.
say
They're a
that.
very emotional bunch, and I feel like they might get too emotional and
Yes,
just get cut
yes.
up, just get diced up.
Because I mean, the coach, he's just like going back to that game a few weeks ago against Dallas where they went for two and it ended up working out like
Hmm.
so was it they went for two. What was this? I just remember being just like completely like flabbergasted by the decision making. But oh, it was like they were like, oh, they went for two, they got a penalty,
Yeah,
they went back 7 yards, and they
they
go for it
still went for it.
again,
They didn't get
which was
it.
like you said, that was such an emotional decision. That was
Yeah,
Dan Kim was saying like, I'm the go for it guy. This is
yeah,
who I am. The right decision is to kick the field goal and play for overtime, but like you said, emotions. Then of course Dallas bails them out with the penalty, and then it's
hmm,
back to the two, and then the
yeah, yeah,
going
yeah.
for two again is justified, and it's like okay, now everyone won't shit on him. But I remember thinking like, bro, what's gonna get lost in this whole thing is the fact that they went for it again,
Hmm.
and Dallas just being the idiots they are, bailed them out. Yeah, man, I think
We hope.
Detroit's
Are you
it's gonna
pulling
get
for
ugly for
Detroit?
Detroit. I think. Oh, for sure.
All
I'm
right,
yeah,
good.
definitely.
Yeah, I think you have to be
I'm
like an
rooting for
evil person
Detroit.
to not root for Detroit here.
I'm rooting for Detroit. I'm rooting for Green Bay. And I'm rooting for Tampa, and I think all
Tampa,
three of them are going to lose. Yeah,
Tampa, yeah.
Tampa for sure. But
Most
yeah, man, I
likely
think
to win those
out
games,
of those three,
the
Detroit,
underdogs.
Tampa, and Green Bay, it sucks because Laporta's out. I think the rookie tight end for Detroit, who's just been a beast this year.
I'm gonna
But
go
he's like
Detroit.
a part of the offense. Are you still going Detroit? I
Yeah, because
don't blame you.
because they you don't get into this position by accident.
Yeah,
I just think the Rams are like the worst possible team they could face right now.
yeah,
I
I
think the
feel
Rams are
you.
the scariest team. They like in the entire
Mm.
playoffs, they are the team that like could could light up anybody. I mean, we saw earlier this year they played Baltimore. Baltimore won off of a punt return.
That was a crazy game.
Yeah,
Yeah, we went to overtime, right?
they've been the
It's a fucking
weirdest.
rain
The
game.
Rams, I've
Yeah.
been looking at them all year, every week, saying that is the weirdest team in football because they'll be like
Mhm.
fucking 5-6, 8-8, and
And they're just
I
competing every week.
never count them out. Yeah, I never think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a credit. I think that's a credit to McVay.
he's been there long
He's a
enough
coach of
that
the
yeah,
year candidate for me. Yeah, like I think
establishment.
he just have them locked in like that. Cooper Cup in and out the lineup. Fucking Puka Nakua,
Mm-hmm.
who like some guys were posting their all pro teams. Puka Nakua was like on some all pro teams as a rookie,
Jeez.
which is yeah, crazy. So you think Detroit has the best chance out of all those? I was gonna say Green Bay.
I would say Green Bay is my last.
You
I think
think
Dallas is
so?
good. I think Dallas is good.
They are. Yeah, maybe I'm just
Did these
drinking a
team
little bit too much
did
Jordan
they
Love Kool-Aid.
did Green Bay and Dallas play each other this year?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna
If they
look
did,
at it.
I don't remember that game. I was gonna say to your point though about the Rams, like the Rams and the Bills are the two teams I think that can just like that could be the Super Bowl matchup. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are two teams that could just get hot and beat anyone on any
Yeah.
given Sunday
You know, it's funny you
or
say that.
Saturday in the
I saw
playoffs.
I saw a TikTok the other day. It was this guy. He's like, as you know, I'm great with sports predictions. Here we go. I'm gonna predict the NFL playoffs. I don't give an explanation,
Just
but
the
here
way
we
that
go.
started.
And it was
Yeah.
Rams and Bills in the end. We had the
Wow.
Bills beating the
Wow.
Rams in the Super Bowl.
That's funny. I mean, those are the two like they have the highest variance, those two teams. They could just stink it up or they could light you up. Damn, so that's our wild card weekend game. I'm so excited, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
The
besides
Cowboys killed the
Pittsburgh,
Rams.
they did. Oh, they did. I kind of do remember that game.
Dude, the Cowboys have
Oh,
killed. They've dropped 40 like 6 times this year.
yeah, I
That
remember the
stupid
first one
ass
against the
Dolphins game on
Giants.
Christmas Eve.
Oh,
That was the that was that was a
I,
fucking football.
so why I kind of have some hesitancy on Detroit. Remember, I wanted to do this like a
Mm-hmm.
couple of weeks ago. So I'm just gonna go over their schedule.
Yeah.
They beat KC week 1.
Yeah.
Okay. They lose to Seattle in overtime.
Yeah.
They beat Atlanta. They beat Green Bay. They beat Carolina. They beat Tampa. They get smacked by Baltimore. You brought
Yep.
that game up earlier. They beat Vegas. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Bears. They lose to
This is
Green
the easiest
Bay.
schedule of all time right now.
Which is kind of the
They
point I'm
they
trying to
beat
make.
Mystic Valley. They beat Bentley
St. Clemson,
University.
St. Clemson, yeah, Clemens, whatever. They beat New Orleans. They lose to Chicago. Then they beat Detroit, beat Minnesota,
Who
lose
they
to
who you
Dallas,
said they beat Detroit. Who'd you mean?
or maybe Minnesota, or they beat Denver. Maybe I meant
Oh,
Denver.
Denver.
I don't know if I mentioned. Yeah, they beat Denver. They beat Minnesota. They lose to Dallas, and then they beat Minnesota again. Like maybe the win against Green Bay
In KC, and that's it. In
and,
KC,
and
barely.
KC week one,
Week one does
which
not matter.
Kelsey did he? I
Kelsey
don't think
wasn't
Kelsey
playing.
played that game, right?
He wasn't
Yeah.
playing.
It makes me pause a little bit with Detroit,
Mm.
but I don't know. We'll see. We'll
Mm.
see. Mm. Mm.
Dude,
Mm.
dude.
Oh man. Well, Gabe, do you have anything else you want to cover?
What did you think, real quick before we go? This is a weird thing to end off on. The Jameis going behind the coach's back.
Yo,
Because I
and
didn't
this is
care
why
at
we have a
first,
podcast
but
together.
like
Because
Russillo pointed it out.
so
Like, this is
funny.
everybody's
What'd he
like,
say?
haha, Jameis being Jameis, but this guy fucking sucks. This is why he's hasn't succeeded, and this is he was like this in college and this and that. And I was
It's
like,
Marcelo taking that angle. Just have fun, Marcelo. Come on.
but a
I
lot of
get it.
people agree with all the former football people who played or agree or on that stance where it's like you went behind the coach's back and you
No,
blamed
Jameis.
it was his decision. It
Yeah.
wasn't the team. It wasn't all 52 guys got together. Jameis called it in the
Yeah.
huddle. It was your decision.
I guess my initial reaction is just comedy. I guess if I
Yes.
really sit and
Yes.
think about it, it's like, oh, and that is kind of messed up. But like, I think it's Jameis. He's a fucking lunatic. What was really fucked up was I think they were trying to kneel, or they were acting like they were going to kneel, and then they
Yeah.
faked it,
Yeah.
which is that's pretty. That's like, like I get why Arthur Smith was pissed. That was just, and then after the game, they asked Jameis in the locker room, and
Hmm.
he's like, I mean, we already dropped 38. What's 41?
Yeah.
Just he's a nut, bro.
Yeah.
I don't take Jameis serious. Maybe I should, and maybe I should
Right. On the
kind of
outside,
be
like
more
that's
angry and outraged, but
I was the
I
same as
just
you.
laughed, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like,
I,
I can see why that would.
yeah, no,
I'd be
it's
like, you're
fair. I
fucking
could see
out of
it
here.
too.
If you're the head coach, fuck you.
And Dennis Allen is like, after the game, Arthur Smith is like, that's
Sure.
fucking
I don't know.
bullshit.
I know. No, he's like, I
I
know. It's
know.
bullshit.
Oh, the NFC South, the gift that keeps on giving.
All right.
Oh man. But yeah, Gabe,
Yeah.
I guess that's all we have. We'll
Oh,
save we said we're gonna save basketball for another day because
yeah, we
that's like
can. I'm
another
sure
or
they,
maybe.
real quick, if the NBA finals were today, who would be participating? And then I'm gonna hang up I'm gonna stop this podcast as soon as you give your pick and I give
That's
mine.
perfect. The NBA finals started today. The Celtics and the Clippers.
I knew you were gonna say the Clippers. I knew you were gonna say you're drinking the Kool-Aid. You're gonna,
I'm
oh
in.
man.
I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
I'm
let
going Celtics
Harden
Denver.
fool me one more time. Denver's the best team. It should be Denver, but
I wanna zag, but I can't. I can't zag on Denver yet. There's nobody else.
the Clippers are scary, man. That's
Who's
a
number one in the
scary
West right
team.
now? Oh,
I think it's
Minnesota.
Minnesota still. Yeah. The
We'll see.
Clippers 20-6 in their last. We said we're gonna end it. Now we're just gonna go
Now
do
it's an
another
NBA
10 minutes on
pod.
the
Yeah,
NBA.
now it's
Yeah.
you,
Jesus
Zach Lowe
Christ, we
and
can't help
Simmons.
ourselves. 20-6 in their last 26 games. So that's like enough sample size where I'm like, okay, these guys are
Hmm.
this is kind of
They
scary.
figured it
But
out. They figured out how to play
it,
together.
yeah, yeah. And we'll get into all that on a different show. But that's my pick. That's your pick. We both have the
All
Celtics
right.
at least. Phoenix
Yes.
Suns don't exist.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for listening. If you've been here since 100 episodes, quick special thanks. Our first guest,
Little
Sebastian,
listeners. Yeah.
Ferris,
Yeah.
multiple time guest. big supporter of the
Mm,
pod. Everybody who's
yeah.
reached out asking us for
Hmm.
when the pod's coming back during this hiatus, we really appreciate that. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna cut this part at the end, and I'm just gonna read off like all of our guests.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going through all of our guests. Yeah, special thanks, Julius, AJ, Gene, Paul, uh,
Mm.
Junior. This isn't gonna
It's like
play.
the end of an album. You just shot
Gashawn,
off the
yeah,
hood.
yeah, all the features. Gashawn,
Yeah.
AJ, Numdy, shout out to Numdy,
Yeah,
Oogie,
big shout
Oogie
out.
Boogie, Jovan. Boy, it's a lot of repeat offenders. T, Janias,
Oh,
Sonny,
yeah. Clevis was in there. I remember now when you said Janias.
Clevis.
Just
How could
remember the
we forget
Clevis.
Clevis up until now?
Yeah, that's another.
Those are
Yeah,
some of
that's
the
another
best
one
pods.
that was yeah for sure. Agreed.
Zifa, our one female guest. Zifa.
Yeah, the gym podcast. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm thinking if there's anybody else that we forgot. I don't think so. Oh, Matt. Remember Matt was on the pod very early
Matt
on?
and yeah, Adrian. Oh,
Josh,
but that yeah,
Dave.
Josh. Josh was on. Yup. Man.
Yeah. If we're forgetting anybody else, my deepest, deepest apologies. And yeah, yeah, that'll do it. Thanks,
Mm.
everybody.
Thank you guys.